This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for December 12th, 2024. This is season 14, episode number 26, and episode number 465 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. Got a great show planned for you. We'll get you ready for the Danville games this weekend for the Binghamton Black Bears. They will be traveling out there. As you're listening to this, probably on Thursday, they will be traveling out there. There might be a few of the Black Bears players listening. If you are, thank you very much. I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope the fans are all doing well. And we've got a lot to talk about today. There is definitely, I sat out Sunday's podcast. I was a little tired, a little exhausted. The holiday season, putting up the Christmas lights, doing the shopping, traveling the weekend before, covering the games, just pure exhaustion. So I didn't do a show on Sunday, and I could have talked about a lot of things on Sunday, but I like sometimes, and this is the reason why I write the day after game reports. During the games, I'm writing up, essentially what's happening chronologically, and I really mispronounced that word. But as you know, first period, second period, third period, kind of write things out, put it on the Facebook group. Sometimes I use that for the Sunday podcast to kind of go through the game and give you the good feel of how the games went. Sunday, being that I was tired, I didn't really want to, talk about too much of the referee stuff, because I know a lot of people got really kind of crazy about the referees, the fans, and we lost the game on Friday because the referees didn't make this call, or they made this call, and honestly, I've never bought into that. Do I get upset about calls? Absolutely. I think even Brant Sherwood does. Obviously, he does. We know. We've seen him get upset about calls. He sees things differently than me. I'm up in the press box. I see something. I see it differently. Sometimes I get upset because I think the team kind of falls into that little oh, crap, we're in the penalty box. Oh, we're in the penalty box again. Oh, we're in the penalty box again. And you kind of fall into that trap of trying to do things, push the envelope a little bit, try to make things happen. Your stick gets a little sloppy or careless or whatever that is. But the reason why I write the day after, the reason why I don't do a podcast on Saturday night after, the two games are done, is because it allows me to think a little bit about what I just saw. And it allows me to write about or talk about things in a more perspective kind of style. Instead of just putting a microphone in front of someone's face after they lose a game, which unfortunately happens in sports, these days. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Those kind of statements eventually come out because players don't want to talk to the media because they aren't given time to put perspective on the game themselves. They get that first initial reaction. Well, when you're in the middle of a game and something bad happens and you perceive it to be bad against you, unfortunately, that's how you're going to portray that when someone sticks a microphone in your face, right? So as soon as you're done with the game, and think about the Dallas Cowboys this past Monday. They played against the Cincinnati Bengals. They blocked a punt at the end of the game, and unfortunately, the Cowboys didn't, capture that, and the Bengals got the ball back, and then they eventually won the game, right? And you think about that, as soon as that game was over with, there are going to be media down in the Dallas Cowboys locker room. The game was played in Dallas, and what do you think is going to happen? They're going to put a mic right in front of all these players' faces. Well, why didn't you catch the ball? Why didn't you get that fumble? This was the game. That was the moment, the pivotal moment of the game, and it was right at the end. And, players aren't going to react in the way that they normally would. Maybe if you ask that same question the next day or the day after that. So it gets kind of crazy. So I try to use that mentality to write the next day and or do the podcast the next day. So I've had a few days to think about the weekend games and the referees. And I still stand by what I would say even on Sunday, which is that the referees did not cost the Black Bears the game on Friday. They did not cost the Prowlers the game on Saturday. Now, is there an argument to be made that maybe the referees went a little overboard on Saturday with the 10-minute misconducts? Maybe. But I still will stand by what I was telling people on Saturday night and even on Sunday, which is that the referees do that. When they see a game like on Friday where there's a lot of penalties, there's even 2 penalties that caused 2 players to be suspended, and the 2 same teams are playing the next day, guess what they're going to do? They're going to start handing out 10-minute misconducts to cool guys down. Now, I can tell you right now, the players don't like it, the coaches don't like it. Both coaches probably didn't like it, Matt Graham and Brant Sherwood, right? They didn't like it. Players probably didn't like it across the board, right? 10 more minutes? Are you kidding me? But the referees are doing it to cool the teams down, to cool the players down, to get them to stop doing some of the crazy stuff. When the whistle blows and the play is over, if players continue to go after each other, and that's when bad things can happen, and that's why they use the 10-minute misconducts. So you may not like it, but there is a reason for it. And sure, 11 10-minute misconducts through the first 40 minutes of the game was maybe a little excessive, but at the same time, there was a goal scored. Matter of fact, it was the Kyle Steffen goal, and Tyson Kirkby got inciting the opponent because instead of celebrating first, he went and incited opponent, or basically, was like, haha, look at us, we just did that. And they gave him a 10-minute misconduct because I was taking pictures of this, right? And I got great pictures of Kyle Steffen and a couple players, and as a matter of fact, I used it for my the final game graphic, right? Kyle Steffen there. Well, just a few seconds after that, Tyson Kirkby's joining the bunch, and I'm not blaming Tyson Kirkby. I'm just pointing out how and why some of these, kind of happen. He comes over to celebrate after he did whatever he did, basically, showing up. Taunting maybe is the best way to do it. They have a taunting rule in the NFL, and essentially this is what he got called for as well, is basically taunting. He comes skating over to celebrate, and there's a linesman right there basically saying, hey, you're going to the penalty box. You need to leave. So he couldn't even really truly celebrate because he had to go to the penalty box for 10 minutes for inciting an opponent. So they do that to kind of cool these guys down, cool their jets. And there was still a casualty at the end of the game. So I want you, the fans, to know that blaming the referees for the loss on Friday, no, it's not the referee's fault. The Black Bears will tell you they made mistakes in that game. They allowed a team that delayed the game start by 30 minutes because their bus broke down. Not that that's the team's fault. It's the owner's fault of the team but again, let's not get into the bus thing. There's 6 teams that had bus issues, including the Black Bears. So we're not going to throw stones in glass houses when it comes to that. But they were late by 30 minutes. The Black Bears came out and had a full warm-up themselves. The first, on Friday night, the first, 4 minutes of warm-ups, I think one player was out there, Alex Johnson, the assistant coach for the team, assistant general manager of the team. He's the only one out there for the first 4 minutes of the warm-up. And they still went out there, and they had the leg up on the Black Bears the whole game. They really did. Let's be honest. They came in and they played their guts out after a horrible day of travel, 12, 13, 14 hours, whatever it was, trying to get from Port Huron to Binghamton, and they just flat out outplayed the Black Bears. But then the Black Bears turned the table on Saturday, right? With all the penalty minutes that happened. Is that the referee's fault that the Prowlers lost? No. So I really hate the fact that people use that as an excuse, okay? It's not the reason why they lost. It's not all of it is, I mean, there were 3 suspensions from these 2 games. So you got to start looking at, well, okay, what happened? Well, it's the style of play that the Prowlers play versus the Black Bears. The Black Bears like to play a run and gun game with a tight defensive play when need be, okay? And they've done that this year where they've had 3 shutouts this year. They've played tight defensively when they've needed to. And they also are a run and gun game, a run and gun team. But if you're not physical with the Black Bears, they don't care. They don't need to be physical to beat you. They can literally outscore you to beat you. They did it last year. They have scored less goals this year leading up to this, but they're still doing okay. They're a have. They're not a have-not when it comes to scoring, unlike the Prowlers. My point being here is when they get goaded into playing the game that the Prowlers play, these type of games happen. Suspensions, penalty minutes, 10-minute misconducts. Danbury did this to Binghamton for for two straight years, even before Brant Sherwood came into the Black Bears. The Danbury Hat-Tricks were playing games like this against the Black Bears, right? And the Black Bears, sometimes they fall into that trap. I believe it's a trap that teams will do to get Binghamton off their game. Binghamton's best game is to play north to south hockey, passing the puck east to west, okay, or west to east. Either way, that's their best hockey. And the Prowlers came in with the mindset is we can't run and gun with you, so we're going to put our sticks down. We're going to put sticks on pucks. We're going to forecheck you well. We're going to back check you well, and we are going to frustrate the living hell out of you. And that's what they did. And anyone on the team that says, no, we weren't frustrated, no, blah, blah, they're absolutely lying to you, okay? They got frustrated as they have done against Watertown at times last year, Danbury the last couple years. That's the reason why those games happened the way they did. And Matt Graham and Alex Johnson are laughing all their way back because they got 3 points out of it, right? They got a split. That's exactly what they were looking for, and they got that. Now, can the Black Bears not get goaded in? Can the Black Bears find a way to not have this happen to them? I don't know, because it's too easy to fall into that trap. And it's very hard to play against a team that will play a trap style of hockey like the Prowlers did this weekend, okay, where they're plugging the holes in the lanes. They don't let you move that well. And it's hard for players like Kyle Steffen to use his speed and his skating skills. It's hard for Gavin Yates to use his speed and skating skills. And what does that do? That limits their game. That's what the Prowlers did well. That's why this got chippy, feisty all weekend long, and there ended up being more penalties and penalty minutes the second game than the first game. So I just wanted to talk about that. The referees don't, on most cases, and let's be honest, when the Black Bears don't play against teams like the Prowlers, this kind of stuff doesn't happen. And these kind of games don't happen. They run their run and gun, and they're good. They play tight defensively, and they're good, right? But when they have to muck it up, that's the kind of games you're going to get. And it's not a big deal. It happens. And they lost one game. Whoop-de-doo. They're 13-3-1 or whatever it is now, right? So the Black Bears are in good shape. They're the number 1 team in the league. They power rankings wise, we've kept them in number 1. All the people that vote on it over at Minor Pro Hockey, we still got them at number 1. They're the best team in the league, and everybody knows it at this point. Athens has dropped off a little bit. Carolina's still good. Baton Rouge, I think they've been tested. I think we can say they're a top 4 team without a doubt. But the Black Bears are still the number 1 team in the league, regardless if we have games like this. And you're going to see 2 different games this weekend in Danville than you did against the Prowlers. When you watch it on YouTube, you're going to get that bird's eye view like I do when I'm in the press box, and you're going to see a game. The game will slow down a little bit for you because of the view that you're going to get, and you're going to see a different style of game that Danville will play, which will allow Black Bears to play their style of hockey, which isn't necessarily the most physical style. They'll muck it up if they need to, but it's not their style of hockey. Their style of hockey is using speed, skill, and smart decision-making when it comes to passing the puck and moving the puck around and playing within the systems that Brant Sherwood has put in there. I'm not knocking anybody here. I'm not knocking the Prowlers. I thought it was a smart style of what they did. You may not like some of the things that happened in the games, right? But it's okay. All right. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for Power Play Post Show. Check out BinghamtonHockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show from the Binghamton Black Bears, utility player, forward defenseman, we'll call them both at this point, Emerson Emery. Had a great conversation with him on Wednesday evening. I'm pretty sure you guys will pretty much enjoy that conversation I had with Emerson. But here, let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit more about these games from last weekend. Here are my thoughts on last weekend's games. Here's some of the notes that I took. Black Bears lost on Friday night 5-3 to the Port Huron Prowlers, as we all know. CJ Stubbs with a cup check spearing and Kenneth Stiles with a slew foot. These were the two plays that were a big part of kind of like how things changed, obviously, going into Saturday. But CJ Stubbs, they called it a spearing match penalty. Dave Jackson called it a cup check. Then Kenneth Stiles had the slew foot, which CJ Stubbs fought him. What a great fight that was between CJ Stubbs and Kenneth Stiles. I had to bring that up. Excellent fight. Probably one of the best heavyweight fights I've seen in the Fed since starting watching the Black Bears. I'll be honest. That's how good of a fight that was between the two. Hats off to both of those guys. There were 3 fights in the game. Obviously, I just talked about the one. Lots of penalties. Binghamton, 12 for 36. Port Huron, 10 for 32. Jesse Anderson and Don Oliveri both had power play goals in the game, which I thought was important. All right, so Port Huron Prowlers, Stiles suspended. So here, I'm going to read through the 2 suspensions from these two games, because it's interesting to get into the mind of Dave Jackson every once in a while about these. Okay, so he basically says, he's suspended for 1 game. I do not view this as a match penalty for slew footing, because the player being fouled was aware of the contact and was, in fact, engaged in an upper body strength battle with Mr. Stiles. Having said that, I see the leg movement and view this as a dangerous and reckless trip. I am downgrading this to a game misconduct for tripping and suspending Mr. Stiles for 1 game. When you watch whatever you can watch, and if you saw this, I did not see this live, okay? But I've seen a lot of plays like this where there is an engagement between the 2 players, and then the foot. So usually what happens is the upper body, you have you have your arm in front of the guy, and then you trip him from behind, and that's what a slew foot is. And I can see where this can happen. And I usually bash on Dave Jackson, but I do respect what he's saying here, because I think it's a fair judgment to do here. He's still suspending Stiles for it, but he's saying it a little bit differently than what it was. And then, of course, we get to CJ Stubbs. He says, Mr. Stubbs got beat on the back check and reached out to contain his opponent, which is okay. You can get called for hooking on that, or in some cases, and ended up hitting him in the groin with the tip of his stick. This falls under an automatic 1-game suspension for a cup check. So that's a little bit different than saying that he was suspended for spearing. So again, match penalty for spearing turns into, really, this is more of an automatic 1-game suspension for a cup check. So again, this is Dave Jackson taking a look at this. Now, I don't think either referee did anything wrong with either one of those calls, because it happens in certain ways where you can't see everything, and then you have to go back and review it. All right. So that is what happened. Now, both of those guys were suspended for the Saturday game. All right. So the Black Bears win on Saturday night, 5-2 over the Prowlers. Cameron Clark with the teddy bear toss goal. Also had the hat trick in the game. Kyle Steffen had a shorthanded game-winning goal. There were 11 10-minute misconduct penalties through the first 40 minutes of the game, and then a 10-minute game misconduct penalty at the end for Josh Fletcher. So the penalties in this game was Binghamton 17 for 93 and Port Huron 15 for 73. I got to be honest with you, that's the most Binghamton's had in one game in a couple years, at least. Even some of the Watertown games last year didn't get that bad. Matt Graham gets a double minor, a high sticking on Tyson Kirkby, no additional punishment. I know there's a lot of talk about that. I am pretty sure that someone in the Kirkby family was trying to gather video evidence and send it into the league. Obviously, the league felt that this was good enough. Now, I'll be honest with you. I was sitting up in the press box, and I watched that live, and then we watched, obviously, the replay a couple times on the big board, and it was vicious. I mean, that was vicious, and the first thing I said was, well, there's a puck in the air, and he's trying to bat it down, but I don't know if he could see the puck and where it was from his position of where he was versus Tyson was, and he really just took a swing, and it was reckless, 100% reckless, and I do believe that because he's a general manager and the head coach of the team, that is the reason why he wasn't suspended. Because I think if that was anybody else, and if the roles were reversed and that was Tyson Kirkby that did the same exact thing with that puck being there and being in the defensive zone, he would have been suspended. I do believe there's a double standard there. I'm saying that right now. I believe that Matt Graham should have been suspended for a game or two for that baseball swing to Tyson Kirkby's face. I just want to say that out there. I don't think we need to dwell on it anymore. I said what I said, and that's that. Josh Fletcher gets an instigator game misconduct for instigating in the last 5 minutes of the game. Now, here's what Dave Jackson said, and I think there's a lot of people that disagree on this one. This is a clear-cut instigator, which I kind of agree. Distance traveled, gloves off first. There was no reason for this fight. Mr. Fletcher was not engaged in his opponent prior to starting this fight. It did not occur organically as a result of the contact between Mr. Fletcher and his opponent. Because this occurred in the last 5 minutes of the game, Mr. Fletcher will be suspended for one game. I understand giving the instigator for traveling a distance, dropping the gloves, traveling a distance to get into a fight. But what about what happened just before that? Sometimes that has to be taken in consideration. It wasn't. It was the only one game. It's fine. He'll miss Friday's game. He'll be back on Saturday in Danville. 2,092 stuffed animals for the Crime Victims Assistance Center. I thought that was great. Cameron Clark, what a great goal. And then he goes and celebrates, and then all the teddy bears come down. Phenomenal by the Binghamton fans. 2,092 stuffed animals for the Crime Victims Assistance Center. Excellent job. Tyson Kirkby surpassed this weekend 200 points in his career. He's at 203 now. He got 4 points going into the weekend or through the weekend. So he is now he's in the 200 points club in Binghamton hockey history, and there's not many people that have done that. Hudson Valley Venom are sold to PKB LLC and become the HC Venom, which is Hockey Club Venom. No word on the December 27th game that was supposed to be played in Newburgh between the Black Bears and the Venom. The Visions Veterans Memorial Arena is not available because of the Coaches versus Cancer basketball tournament taking place on the 27th and the 28th, with the 29th being a makeup date in case of snow. So I don't think there's going to be snow at this point, the way the weather's going, but maybe. So that'll be interesting for sure to see what they do with that game. Now, Binghamton this weekend, as everyone knows, is heading to Danville for 2 games against the Dashers Hockey Club. Dashers are 1-13-2 with 5 points and 7th in the Empire Division. They are not doing well. The Dashers are led by Brandon Stovitsky, who has 10 goals, 11 assists for 21 points in 16 games played. Parker Rutherford and Oscar Walgreen have split the duties in the net, neither with a lot of success or help in front of them. Walgreen is 0-6-1 with a 4.98 goals against average and at least a respectable .900 save percentage. And Rutherford is 1-7-1 with a 5.68 goals against average and .883 save percentage. The Dashers are second to last in the power play and are dead last in the penalty kill. People score on them 40% of the time on the power play. That's not good for sure. So let's see here. Let's get right to the interview. Obviously, that's with Emerson Emery of the Binghamton Black Bears, and we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers.
Hi, this is Brandon Bochinsky.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. This gentleman is a utility man. He might have to fill in for me at some point here on the Power Play Post Show. He's been doing everything for the Black Bears, except for maybe goaltending. I don't think Coach Sherwood has had him do that yet. He comes to us from the Black Bears. He is technically a forward, but he's played a little defense this year. We'll talk to him about that in just a minute. He is Emerson Emery. Emerson, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Thank you, Bob. It's good to be here, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Now, Emerson, you and I were talking a little bit afterwards, or beforehand. We were talking a little bit about where you're from, which is Mountainville, New Jersey, which is kind of a little bit east and maybe a little bit north of Newark, if people want to know where it is on the map. And tell me a little bit about Mountainville and what it's like there.
Yeah, so it's kind of 30 minutes from Newark, 30 minutes from New York City, so it's kind of right in the heart of things in North Jersey there. But it's got some nice shops, got some nice townhouses down below. But I live up north, kind of in the hills of the town. I grew up camping, playing in the woods, all that kind of good stuff. So it's a nice area that has a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I mean you're probably up near Pyramid Mountain, of that northern part of Mountainville. What's sports like in Mountainville or around that area, especially youth sports? Is it do you get all the major sports, all four of them, maybe five if you can include soccer as well?
Yeah, so I know the Mountville Mustangs. They are the football team. They were big when I was in high school. That was pretty much on everybody's mind. But we did have a good baseball team. I know there's a few guys that made it to the minor pros from there. But a lot of baseball, a lot of football, and actually lacrosse is pretty big in Mountville as well. I played from late middle school up to throughout high school. So that's a big lacrosse program in Mountville.
Yeah, and lacrosse and hockey do kind of like cross-pollinate a little bit. They do kind of... Can you talk a little bit about the similarities between lacrosse and hockey?
Yeah, I think it definitely... the kind of end-to-end style of it is maybe the major thing, just kind of how there's not many stoppages, and when there are stoppages, it's rather short. But there's, defenders and attackers that, play their position pretty well. And I think face-offs are a big thing in lacrosse that kind of also correlates to hockey, which is interesting.
Now, how many years of lacrosse did you get to play?
I believe it was 5 years. I started in 8th grade and then played in high school, made varsity in my sophomore year. It's kind of, again, actually more or less a utility guy. I was a short stick defensive midi for all you lacrosse fans out there, kind of just both ends of the field.
Well, I'm sure Brooks Hill will listen to this. He played a little lacrosse in college, I believe, right? If I'm getting that correct and everything. Have you guys had a conversation about lacrosse yet?
No, actually not quite.
Yeah,
I talked to him about that.
Do you watch the pro lacrosse league as well on TV when you get a chance?
No, I never really got into it. I don't really know why. I do like some college lacrosse. I'll watch Notre Dame or Penn State as a good team, but I've never gotten into the pro league.
And I know it's improving too. I know lacrosse, just in general, kind of like soccer did, is becoming the fifth sport in our country. Well, maybe it's the fourth sport over hockey. There's arguments to be had either way, right? For either one to be the fourth sport. But lacrosse is really starting to kind of pick up. More college programs, better players, better athletes. And I think a pro game will eventually, increase that a little bit more as, the pro players get paid a little bit more, like what happened with soccer over the last 20, 25 years. What did you like about playing lacrosse?
I love the physicality, honestly, of the sport. That was one of my favorite aspects. But just kind of how also running plays off the offensive possession, and even that being said, when those gotten broken up, just kind of knowing where you're at, and playing off the cuff. But I really enjoyed it.
Is it similar to hockey when it comes? I don't know anything about lacrosse. I should have studied up for this. But is running plays very similar in lacrosse as it is in hockey? Because there are some set plays in hockey that people may not realize is happening as they're watching it. For fans watching it, they may not know it's a set play, but there are set plays. Is it the same in lacrosse where there are set plays as well?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Off for hockey, off of certain face-offs or even power plays, there's certain plays that you'll run, but often you have to go off the cuff. But in lacrosse, I know with my team, once you got into the offensive zone, you passed it kind of around at least once or twice. We called it Carolina for some reason.
Okay.
And then once you got it to a certain point in that circle, that's when you would run the play. The person would call it out, and then you'd run that specific play. And
that's very similar in basketball, because I remember when I played youth basketball, we did similar things like that, where you'd pass it around and you would call a certain play, and then either there'd be motion on the court, or a certain person would get the ball and take the shot and everything, which is pretty interesting. So for you. If you played lacrosse up through high school, a lot of hockey players don't do that. A lot of times they make that decision, I'm only going to do hockey. So you're one of the few people that didn't do that. First of all, I think lacrosse and hockey are played in different seasons, so that works out, correct?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and so one of the things that you can do is you can play both and get to your senior year. But when did you know that hockey was really still the main sport for you?
I think it sounds cliche. I think I always knew, but I think it was my sophomore year of high school. I started playing AAA travel, and that was kind of really where I started to take it more seriously and really think that, hey, this could help me get into college and all that sort of stuff. So I kind of ran with it from there. But even growing up, it was definitely my number one.
Yeah, and you're talking about, I think your AAA team was the New Jersey Hitmen, which is actually a team that's kind of well known, and a lot of people have played with the New Jersey Hitmen who have played pro hockey. So what was the competitive level like for you when you played with the Hitmen, those 3 seasons?
Yeah, it was extremely high. I remember my first 2 years, I played with one guy named his name's Alex Whalen. He played 4 years at Quinnipiac Division I, and went on played in the AHL. And I played with another guy on that team. Went to Army and played Division I there, and I believe now he's in the East Coast Hockey League. But it was extremely competitive. We played some great, a lot of great showcases, tons of great teams. I remember one showcase we played in St. Louis. We played the St. Louis Junior Blues, and Brady Tkachuk was actually on the other team. I remember taking face-offs against him.
Wow. Okay, all right. So how many face-offs did you win against Brady Tkachuk?
Oh, man.
Be honest.
I would like to say I would like to say somewhere in the high 40s. I would always enjoy taking face-offs and the art of slight variations of different techniques of taking face-offs. So not to toot my own horn, but I enjoyed and took pride in being good on face-offs.
So you did pretty good against him in face-offs, or you just overall did well in face-offs then?
I think I always did well, but I think he probably beat me on more than I won.
Now, what was it like to play against someone like Brady? Because, again, this is somebody that everybody obviously knows, who follows hockey. What was it like to play against his competitive level? Because he was playing at a pretty high level, probably even back then, right?
Yeah, I remember. It's funny because I remember him definitely being, agitator even back then, playing against him, and he was, their top player, but he was also not afraid to, get in your face and play a rough game, and that's kind of, he's carried that and, has done very well, obviously.
So playing with the Hitmen, obviously, very skilled, and then you go from playing with the Hitmen to then going to play in the EHL for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights. Okay, you've now basically left New Jersey. You're now in Pennsylvania. You're in central Pennsylvania. I mean, right now we're only 50 minutes away from Scranton at least, right? And you head out there. What was it like to kind of leave New Jersey and head out to Wilkes-Barre to play with the Knights?
Yeah, so that was actually an interesting situation because after my 18U year of Hitmen, I had kind of decided that I was more or less done playing, and I took a year off from hockey, and then I, missed the game, and found out about Wilkes-Barre, and kind of just went up to their main camp. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but it's definitely a great area, similar to Binghamton with rolling hills and all that stuff. But I enjoyed my time there, and it was definitely a different atmosphere, definitely more rural than I grew up at, but it was I loved it up there.
And what was the change in the competitiveness between AAA hockey and playing with the Knights? What's that jump like?
I think it was I'd say from an organizational standpoint, there was more factors that went into it, and just the fact that it kind of started that feeling of you're always kind of fighting for your job because guys could be traded at any point, moving on to juniors, and that kind of ramped up the intensity and just the becoming more professional and working after practice and things like that, and having more resources. I know we had a shooting room and a nice state-of-the-art gym, so it was all kind of getting to almost a pro experience, but definitely more intense.
Yeah, and how was there any interaction between you guys and the AHL Penguins? Because obviously, right in the same area, was there any interaction with, so you could at least learn from or watch or see what the AHL Penguins were doing? Yeah,
so there wasn't much interaction, but we did get to go to a handful of games. So I remember our coach kind of got us a bunch of guys, whoever wanted to go, really, tickets to 3 or 4 games over my 2 years there that we went to, and it was a great experience just seeing close hand the pro level.
How important is that for a young player like yourself at that time to go and to watch those games? And was it something that maybe the coach would say, "Hey, listen, watch what these guys are doing," or afterwards even saying, "Hey, did you see how they handled this decision making?" Because a lot of times the difference between pro that goes a certain distance is his decision making on the ice.
Yeah, I think it was mainly to just experience it and see the speed that they play at.
Yeah.
I just remember going and kind of just realizing how much faster they were and things like that. And like you said, the decision making is much quicker.
From there, obviously, it's time to go to college, right? And you make the decision to go to a Division III school. But unfortunately, there's a certain thing called COVID that kind of got in the way of that year. And I've talked to a lot of guys. I'm actually surprised in how many guys I've actually talked to this year and last year on the show where COVID affected them. It was either their final year, or it was their second year, or it was their first year. And you kind of miss out on that playing. What was that COVID year like for you?
That COVID year was definitely interesting. I just kind of that year I really started to focus on myself in the gym and getting better off the ice, because that's kind of really all I could do. I mean, I did skate when I could, but a lot of that was learning the off-ice game even more.
You obviously went to a Division III school for that year, but then made the choice to go to Westchester University in the ACHA. What was it? What was the decision making there for you to go to an ACHA school from the Division III school?
Yeah, so part of that decision was certainly academic, and I saw they had a geoscience program, which I ended up taking in. It was either between Westchester and Rutgers, actually, both in the ACHA. And I spoke with the coach there at Westchester, Jeff Beauparlant, and just his demeanor and vision for the program as a whole really kind of drove me and made me want to go there. They had some success in the past, but he was taking over as a new head coach my first year that I was going there, and his vision and his dedication to the whole organization was really what kind of sold me on it, and I was glad I went.
Yeah, you spent 3 years there, and I think probably as you were there and as you played, you kind of grew as a player and got better every single shift. What was the things that you learned about yourself playing college hockey versus when you were in juniors?
Yeah, so it was definitely you had to learn how to more readily balance the social aspect of it, and also the professionalism of being on a college team. I definitely learned how to continue taking care of my body well with the pretty grueling schedule. We had 6 a.m. practices and class all day, and then games on the weekends and things like that. But I definitely enjoyed the time there.
Yeah, and what'd you major in school, by the way?
Yeah, so I majored in geoscience, like Earth systems science.
Right. Okay. And maybe after hockey, is there a certain profession you want to get into?
Yeah, certainly. I'm thinking I'm interested in the engineering field.
Sure.
I did an internship this past summer, actually, at an engineering firm, and I enjoyed it. It's definitely closely tied with geoscience, as it deals with a lot of the soil and soil mechanics. But I'm also interested in any kind of like federal jobs that may need people to see what the ground is, basically.
So what fascinates you about the soils and the ground and basically Mother Earth in that sense? What I mean, I listen. I know you grew up in the country, in the mountainside, right. Part of New Jersey. But what kind of really interests you about that? That's interesting to me.
Yeah, like you said, growing up, I was always camping and kayaking and all that good stuff. So when I realized that geoscience was an option for a career, I kind of jumped at it. And I don't know, it's pretty awesome, just the interconnectedness of the whole Earth system, not to get too much in the weeds, but also there's a feeling that you get when you're out in nature that's hard to replicate. So when I saw it was an option, I jumped at the chance.
This may sound weird, but I grew up in the country, and one of the things that I absolutely love, and I don't understand why I love this, but I can go outside 5 minutes before it rains. I can sense that it's going to rain. There's a difference, obviously, in the atmosphere that happens, as you know.
Right.
You've probably seen that as well. And then I just kind of enjoy those first few raindrops. It's the weirdest thing in the world, but I absolutely love it. It makes me feel more connected, obviously, to Mother Nature in a sense. I don't want to sit out there and dance in the rain or anything weird like that. But it's just a kind of weird thing like that. It's kind of like when people, go out on their porch, their covered porch, and they just listen to the raindrops or whatever. But it really is a weird, strange. But I grew up in the country, and we did that all the time as kids. I was always outside when it started raining, and then we'd go find a tree and take care of just staying dry as much as we could or whatever. But I grew to really appreciate the fact that it was raining and stuff. So I totally get that. I totally get your love of kind of like Mother Nature and whatnot. We won't turn this into a Greenpeace conversation, but I think probably as a society we could do better with taking care of the earth. So it's important that people get into those fields like you are, which I think is a good thing. So,
yeah, certainly.
So how did you get connected with Brant Sherwood and the Binghamton Black Bears? What was that conversation? First phone call? How did you get connected with the Black Bears? Yeah,
so originally when I was thinking of trying to continue and play pro hockey, I talked to my coach at school, and he gave me some connections, at least to some friends that he knew with kids that played in the SPHL. So I reached out to a few teams, and nothing really happened at the end of my school year. So, and then over the summer, I just kind of learned about Binghamton really on my own, and saw that Brant's email was on the page, and I sent him an email, given my spiel, if you will, and we had a good conversation. I sent him some film, and he said, basically give me a tryout and give me a chance to prove my worth, and it obviously went pretty well.
Yeah, you obviously came into camp and impressed because you have been here, and not only that, I called you a utility man, and I truly believe that sometimes, teams win championship because of utility men. I can go through New York Yankees championships in the late 90s where, utility men were some of the reasons why the team played so well. You've played defense. You've played forward this year. You've been on the 10 you've been the 10 forward. You've been, with a couple different D partners. Are you comfortable being able to do both forward and defense? Is that something that you're like, yeah, I can do this?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm extremely comfortable with it. I actually my first year in Wilkes-Barre, my first year of juniors, I played defense, and then my second year I transitioned to forward. But yeah, growing up, I was originally a forward, and then played a little defense in, I believe it was probably squirt, I guess it would be.
Okay.
And then moving forward, I went back to forward, and then so I've been all over the place. So it's definitely not foreign to me.
Yeah, and I was just going to say probably something familiar like riding a bike, especially if you played 44 games in Wilkes-Barre at defense. You start to. You're in all the practices with the D-Corps. You're doing all those kind of trainings, techniques, schemes, learning the systems as a D-man. That doesn't just go away just because you played forward for the next 4 or 5 years. So it's something that stays with you, correct?
Yeah, I certainly agree. And like you said, it's like riding a bike. Really, once you get some good experience under your feet.
So when the defense started to kind of lose a couple people and Brant had to go looking, did you just raise your hand and say, "Yo, I can do this," or did he already know that you played a little D in the past?
I don't think he knew. I remember he was in Danbury. Dakota Bond and Dan Stone both got injured, and I was the 10th forward of that game, and he asked me if I had any experience playing defense, and I said, yeah, actually, first year of juniors, and he said, oh, perfect, all right.
He's like, go out there. And that was during the game, right? Because if I remember correctly, I don't remember if it was Dakota first or Dan first. One of them goes down, and then all of a sudden Brooks is saying, well, it looks like Emerson Emery is out there on the D-line. That happened during the game. That's a conversation that happened during the game, correct?
Yeah. I believe it was after the first period.
Sure. So he just went to you and said, hey, can you do this? And you did it. What was that first game like playing D in the pros when you had played previously, obviously, a few games at forward, but then, boom, you're now on the D-core line. What was that like, that first time coming out in the second period and playing D?
Yeah, it. Oddly enough, it felt very, very natural, and I felt really great. It was definitely. It's been a few years, but the biggest difference is that the whole game is kind of in front of you. Mm-hmm. For most of it, so I think that kind of helped me see the ice and everything, and I don't know, I just felt pretty comfortable right away.
Now, Don and Jesse have both played both positions, and I don't believe, in my opinion, knowing Brant like I do, and I've talked to Brant multiple times on the air, off air, he would only put somebody in that position if he trusts that person, right? He trusts Jesse. He knows Don really well and trusts him. I have a feeling now you've earned the trust of Brant Sherwood if, he's still continuing to, when he needs to, put you on the D-line because, it's a trust thing. When you take a guy and say, hey, listen, have you ever played D? Yep, I played D in juniors. Okay, you're out there. If you play D again the next game or maybe two more games after that really means you've earned his trust. What's your relationship like with Brant Sherwood?
He's been one of the honestly greatest player coaches that I've played for. Like he's very easy to talk to, and he'll also he'll tell you how it is, and he won't kind of sugarcoat things. So it's really honestly good to. I like that about him a lot.
You guys are going out to Danville for a couple games. You guys are leaving, obviously. As some of the fans might be listening to this on Thursday, you guys will be on a long bus ride. Talk to me a little bit about what those bus rides are like. You don't have to give me all the gruesome details, but what are the bus rides like when it's a long one like this? Yeah,
so this is one of the longest ones I've had in a little while coming up, but it's a lot of sleeping at first, but everyone kind of has their own thing that kind of kills sometimes. But I know a lot of the guys like to play cards too, but a lot of movies and podcasts for a bunch of the guys.
Well, hopefully they're listening to the Power Play Post Show. I know a few of them definitely listen. What's your routine on a bus? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you watch movies? Are you one of the card guys?
So I listen to a good amount of podcasts, whether it's I like Spittin' Chicklets, obviously.
Oh, of course, yes.
I enjoy some Joe Rogans, whether that's usually I'll listen to a Joe Rogan podcast if they have like a scientist on.
Sure. Or the
the
crazy scientist, right? Because he does both. It's kind of funny how Joe can do crazy scientist and good scientist. He does a little bit of both, right?
He'll have anybody that wants to come on.
He does.
Which I respect for sure. But yeah, I enjoy cards too, so I'll probably be playing at some point.
What's the card game of choice on the bus? Is it Texas Hold'em or is it just straight poker?
For the most part, it's Schnarps.
Okay, I don't know what Schnarps is.
I'm still learning myself. So.
All right. So someone made up a game called Schnarps on the Black Bears.
Well, no, I think it's pretty. I think it's a pretty common
Okay.
game out there as well. Yeah.
Well, fans, if you're listening, if you guys know what schnapps is, listen. I play poker. I play hold'em. I've been playing. I took $8 in pennies away from my grandmother once, and my mom really got mad at me and made me give the money back to my grandma. And then she gave me a $20 bill, and my mom never knew about it. But either way, that's besides the point. I've been playing cards my whole life. I never heard of schnapps. I'm going to have to look it up now and figure it out. Who is the shark on the bus?
You know, I haven't played that much where I know yet, but a lot of the guys, most of the guys play, so I'm sure everyone's got the shark in them.
That's awesome. Okay, so Danville's 1-13, and I think 1 or 2 overtime losses. Is it easy or hard to kind of overlook a team that's only got one win? It's one of those things where, it's not like you have Watertown on Sunday or something like that. But is there something to be said to not overlook a team that's 1-13?
Well, I think it's not too much of a focus that they are, right? So it's kind of mostly just focusing on what we're doing and how we know we can play, and when we play like we can, we're a damn good team. So
absolutely. All right. Emerson, thank you very much for coming on the show. We definitely appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to get to know you. Good luck this weekend. Whether you're playing defense or forward, or maybe they put the C on you, we don't know. I mean, Brant might have you suit up as the backup goaltender at this point. Did you ever play goaltender in youth hockey?
Oh man, one Christmas skate, and I will. I'll pass that to the next guy. I'm good.
You're good. You're like, Coach, I'll sit if you want me to play goalie. That's
I wasn't
okay.
Very good, but
they did it to me once as well. They said, put the pads on and everything. I was so scared of the puck coming at my head like that. I was like, no way.
Easy, I'll tell you.
It's not easy. I give it up to Connor and Nagy and all the goaltenders out there. Not something I want to do on a daily basis. But Emerson, thank you very much for coming on the show. We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
All right, and we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I do want to mention that this weekend, Brooks Hill will be broadcasting from the Visions Veterans Memorial Arena up in the Black Bears offices. He did not travel with the team out to Danville. So you'll be seeing kind of the broadcast like they do when the team goes up to Watertown. There was special circumstances why he did not go out to Danville this weekend, but unlike where in Watertown, there's just not good enough internet. Even Jeff Bear, who has been on our show, has mentioned that the internet up there is just not suitable to have a visiting team come in and do the games. So with that being said, Brooks will be in the offices and doing the games like he does with the Watertown games, which I still think is kind of cool and kind of fun. And we do get a good broadcast still out of him for that. So again, 2 games against Danville this weekend, and I think that's pretty much it for me. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show in whichever platform you listen to your podcast, and please subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. Thank you to Rob Lapolis, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, as well as from the Binghamton Black Bears, our personal utility guy himself, forward and defenseman, Emerson Emery. I'm Bob Howard. Thank you very much for listening. We'll talk to you on Sunday for the weekend wrap-up show right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.